You're listening to The Big Conversation.
Brought to you by the Cheshire and Merseyside Resilience Hub.
Joined by special guest, Amy Bebbington.
On today's episode, we're welcoming Amy Bebbington from Wirral University Teaching Hospitals, who's a wellbeing specialist practitioner. Hi, Amy. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, good. I'm in one of our new pods in our office, and it's lovely.
Very nice, very nice.
Amy's come to talk to us today about setting personal boundaries. And I presume you deal with setting personal boundaries within your daily role.
Yeah, quite a lot. So yeah, I deliver therapies, and quite a lot of the time there's a lot of things around the stuff that people bring to therapy, particularly in the workplace. Obviously, I work in the occupational health department at the moment, and a lot of the sort of anxieties that people will bring, or potentially like kind of chronic low mood things that they're experiencing, come off the back of a lack of boundaries within the workplace, that makes work quite an unenjoyable place to be, really, at those points.
So what is personal boundary setting then?
So for me, I mean, there's probably tons of descriptions, but for me, and what I talk to people about the most, being able to set your own personal boundaries is recognizing your own limitations, recognizing when what you're doing is at detriment to yourself, and being clear and concise and confident in being able to say no to people without feeling that then means that you're not helpful, that then goes against you as a person, but just being able to say to yourself, this is where my remit is, and then that clearly being kind of disseminated to other people so that they're equally aware of your boundaries.
Okay, so it's essentially, like you just said there, it's saying no, but it's in a confident way that it's not harming people as well, and it's not putting people at risk, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's about us being able to find that kind of happy medium where we can have our own personal boundaries and it's not at the detriment of anybody else or at the detriment of ourselves.
Okay, so when we talk about personal boundary setting, because it's like a level of confidence that someone might not have, and I know when you work in an organization, and people just ask you to do something, you just say, yeah, okay, yeah, but you don't realize the level of, say, I want to say damage you do to yourself by just taking on and saying yes to people. So, in terms of that, what would you say to someone who needs to set their own personal boundaries?
So I think you made a really important point there about the confidence levels, because I think it's very different. It's different per person. If somebody comes into therapies and they've got quite chronically low self-esteem, that is off the back of something that's been particularly traumatic or particularly difficult in their life, that's a different circumstance. What we would look at there is looking at where that's come from.
Yeah.
We look at the background and then working to build that confidence and that self-esteem so we can then put in a personal boundary at that point. But if we're at the point with somebody, say, I don't know, we've got somebody that's in a maybe relatively senior role, doesn't have to be particularly senior, but has got enough confidence to have kind of got themselves to that point, feels that they know their job, they know their role, they can do it quite well, but consistently is saying yes, we would be starting to look at, why do we feel the need to say yes?
Yeah.
Is it because we've got high expectations of ourselves? So some people will say to me, well, I just need to be the one that fixes things. I just am. I'm just the go-to person that's got the answer to everything. Looking at why are you the go-to person? Why do you need that? Because a lot of the time it can be a little bit self-fulfilling, or it can be along the lines of people-pleasing. So that, well, I just need to keep other people happy because that keeps my life nice and easy. It doesn't in the long run, because you don't say no to everything.
I think that is, that exactly what you just said, that you don't say no. You don't say no, and you just build and build and build with a workload that isn't your workload. And like you said, keeping a smooth profile, like a low head, that sort of stuff, you think, oh yeah, this is great, but then actually there's going to come a breaking point, isn't there?
Absolutely. You'll get to a point where you snap because you can't take on any more, and then all of a sudden that smooth persona that you had has gone out the window. Or you get to a point where you go off sick for 5 or 6 months because you can't face going back, because all of a sudden I've dropped from that level. Whereas actually, if we just manage people's expectations of us in the first place and say, these are the things I can do, these are the things I can't do, these are the things I'm willing to help with or I'm able to, there's not really anything to then feel concerned or worried about afterwards, because you've managed people's expectations clearly. Their response to that is on them. But you've done what you need to do.
But you paint a picture here, because I read a book once, and it's called, what's it called now? What's Your Why, by Simon Sinek. And it asks you, well, it gets in your mind to understand why you do the stuff that you do. So, not why'd you get up in the morning, why'd you go to work? Oh, I need to go to work to earn money. But what's the deeper issue than that? It digs deeper. And when you say becoming a yes person or a people pleaser, why? Why do you say yes to people? And it's kind of that mindset of allowing people to broaden the horizons to understand why they say yes and can they say no, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right, because there are some people that saying no will be really, really, really difficult, but everybody does it. We all do say no. We say no to things. There is nobody that goes through life that says yes to every single thing, because if they did, they wouldn't be around very long. They will probably make it to adulthood if you say yes to everything. So we're all capable of doing it, but it's exactly that, like you said, it's the why can I not do it? And a lot of the time that is about looking inward, and it's a little bit hard. It's hard to look at yourself and go, well, actually, maybe I do really value the recognition of other people and the validation of other people.
Yeah.
And that's why I say yes to things. But actually, that's okay to have. That's an okay trait to have if it's not at the detriment of yourself. But if it's at the detriment of you, you need to do a little bit of work on it.
I think this is absolutely the case because when you look in front of a mirror, you see what you want to see. You only see what you want to see, whereas somebody else looking on the outside at you going, "Oh, look at that," and then when they say that about you, you go, "Oh," and it's kind of nice feeling that it amalgamates within yourself, doesn't it? You're like, "Oh, actually, I like this," and then so you start to do it more and more. But then, like you said, it's that to the detriment of yourself of the more you say yes, the more it becomes your thing. And it's like me passing a load of work and getting a load of work and saying, Amy, can you deal with that? Yeah. But you then become known for dealing with that problem.
Yeah.
So, oh, Amy will sort it. Oh, go speak to Amy. Whereas actually, it's not even in your job description.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then what happens is once you've done that and you've said yes so many times and you become that go-to person, the expectation of you becomes a hell of a lot higher than it ever was in the first place. And like you say, you become the kind of go-to person for it. Oh, they'll do this. And then when you actually get to a point where you go, no, I can't do this anymore, putting that boundary in is so much harder. And it's just the same as looking at like raising children. Now, I don't have children, but I've worked in young people's services and things. And it's very much the case of if you were to allow your child to get away with a certain behavior for
Yeah.
5 years, and you then decided that they were going to stop, and that you actually, I'm not happy with that behavior, 10 times harder than if they've done it twice.
Yeah.
And you go, no,
And
we don't do that anymore.
you can even go even further and take that back down to childhood infancy with dummies. Take a dummy and they've required that child's had that dummy for so long and you're changing the pace. So it's going to be a lot harder to do something new than it is the old routine.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what happens is when you then decide, no, do you know what? I'm sick of this. I've said yes too many times. People are putting on me all the time. I'm going to put a boundary in now. 5 years down the line of me doing this all the time, nobody's going to take it seriously.
No.
Nobody's going to listen. And they will eventually, but your work becomes 10 times harder than if in the first place we had that confidence and were able to go, I don't think I can take that on.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think it's kind of like a path, isn't it? There's no success isn't just one direct straight path. It's a path that goes higgledy piggledy, up, down, round and round, back on itself. But actually, as you know this, as you get to grips with that, as setting yourself a personal boundary for yourself and just saying, today I'm going to say no to 5 things.
Yeah.
And it's not a negative way. It's not, I'm not doing that. It's not my job. But actually, it's the way you phrase it and the language you use at the same time, isn't it? And it goes back to that
100%.
confidence thing like you were mentioning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's about looking at your communication styles as well. So you can be passive, you can be assertive, or you can be aggressive. Or you can be communication style for a passive aggressive, where you're a little bit of both. But
Yeah.
the bottom line is if we're passive, we're not okay. We allow everybody else to kind of be okay. We make sure they're all right. We might be quite closed. We might be quite shy. We might not make eye contact. We might really struggle to say no to things and just think, oh, I'll just take it on because it makes things easier. But then, as much as we don't want to do that, we don't want to be aggressive either, where we're confrontational, we're consistently, I don't know, we might be trying to be in a power position over other people, we're shouting, we're raising our voice, we're using language that we maybe wouldn't want to use, and we're just making sure that we get what we want and nobody else benefits from the situation either. So it's finding that happy medium that actually, well, we can communicate these things and it's not aggressive and it's not nasty and it's not unhelpful, but I'm equally not going to do absolutely everything to the detriment of myself, because I can't do that either.
It's dead funny you say that though, because in terms of where we work, the NHS, the social health and social care, the emergency services, we're kind of one little family, aren't we? And actually being able to say no is kind of ironic, because that's the job we're in, is to say yeah and to help people, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's where it becomes particularly difficult, because part of our, well, hopefully part of our nature of being in caring roles and in the positions that we're in is that we want to help people. We want to do things to make things better. Actually, we thrive off that. We all go to work because ultimately the outcome of our work is that someone's got better, or something we've been able to help in some way, shape, or form, and that's what makes us feel good. And it's just recognizing that we can still do that, but
Yeah,
we can't do it for every single person all the time. And it's just a basic thing of looking at it as if you had two people working on an emergency department, they can't take every single person that comes through and every single one's going to be made to feel better and they're going to
yeah,
go home and everything's going to be perfect. But if you had 1,000 people working on one emergency department, likelihood is most people will do pretty well.
yeah,
And we'll have, the obvious things will happen because that's nature and that's what happens. But aside from that, most people will be helped. And that's the same with your situation. If you're on your own taking on everybody's jobs, taking on everything people ask of you, you're not going to be able to do it. But if there's
yeah.
plenty of you that spread across, more things are going to go more positively.
Well, it's spreading the workloads, like you said. It's the language you use. Instead of just saying no, it's kind of understanding yourself how to say no. So I'll give you a big example with my team. When it's getting really busy, like we're coming up to the festive period, for most organisations, that is a chill time, starts to wind down for us and NHS especially. The winter pressures and everything, it ramps up. So if I'm asking my team members to do something, I'm saying, hey, can you do this whilst I'm doing this, this, and this? So it's kind of saying to someone, I'm also doing this at the same time. Can you help? Type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's that level of delegation. And you don't need to be, like you said earlier on, you don't need to be a senior. You could be a cleaner. You could be a porter. You could be facilities management. You don't need to be clinical to be able to say no.
100%.
So,
Absolutely.
sorry, go on.
I was going to say is, and that's the point of the boundaries kind of don't stick with a role. They don't stick with, it's not that somebody senior is allowed to have a boundary and somebody that is a junior member of staff to them isn't. It's something that we all can do individually in work and outside of work as well.
Yeah. And I think, well, I'm going to touch back on that point of the little family aspect, the social care, emergency services, NHS, and it's that aspect there as well, about the language and a culture within a workplace at the same time. Because if you do stuff and continues to do stuff for people and just to happily say yes to people, that then becomes your thing. So when you're not there to deal with it, who's dealing with it behind? And it's kind of like being able, pushing yourself to say, this isn't actually my job. If you need XYZ doing, this is the policy or the procedure, or, but again, that could come across as passive in terms of that. So how would, from your point of view, as a therapist, how would you link with someone to learn to become more assertive?
Yeah, okay. So a bit of work that stuff that I really like to focus on, particularly for people, is looking at modelling. I think
Yeah,
that's always a good place to start with assertiveness, because it's very easy, particularly if you are a naturally assertive person or you're somebody that just communicates that way quite confidently, and that's fine. It's hard to understand that actually there's quite an uncomfortable feeling that sits with becoming assertive when you are particularly passive or equally particularly aggressive and try to kind of reduce down. So modeling, I always think, is a nice place to start, because you're kind of taking the responsibility out of yourself slightly. You're still responsible for doing it, you're still responsible for practicing, but you're saying to yourself, let's look at somebody in my life, be that work, be that family, friends, whoever, that I really admire the way that they communicate. I
yeah,
look at the way that they communicate and I think I'd like to be like you. So you can channel your inner whoever within different circumstances. So it doesn't become you. So it's not Amy that's being assertive. It's me channeling my inner so and so. So that then takes that kind of pressure a little bit
yeah,
off of that I've changed as a person. I've done something differently. But it also gives you a bit of a route to kind of follow. Gives you some guidance to go, well, actually, I know what I want to do. I know I feel really uncomfortable and I just want to say yes. But I know that so and so wouldn't do that. and I
Yeah.
know that I need to channel them. So it gives you a bit of a focus as well. So I think that's a
Yeah.
good place to start.
It's really funny you say that because I saw something and I think it's a film, but I can't remember. But it's what would X person do, and that becomes your mantra. What would Amy do? And well, Amy would be dead sassy. Would Amy like? And it's that kind of aspect of allowing yourself to explore your own persona. Um, and if Amy couldn't say no, well, Amy's friend or whoever could say yes, and that's allowing you to be. And then I think that works in daily life because, in terms of a personality trait, growing up at school, looking at this, or teenagers or anything like that, you actively gel and you don't realize how much interlinking you are with your friends in terms of, oh, they've done that. Well, maybe I should do that. And so on and so
Exactly.
on. So it gets into your veins, if you would, and allow yourself to become that person to say, well, actually, this is my level of nope that I can't deal with anymore.
Exactly, absolutely. And it's allowing yourself to break the mold as well. I think some people get to certain ages and they kind of go, oh, well, I've always been like this. Doesn't matter. You can still change it. I know there's lots of arguments about things that you can do at certain ages and you can't do. One thing you can always do is putting boundaries. It might be a bit tougher because it's been a while since you
Yeah,
last had them, or maybe you've not ever kind of practiced that. But allowing yourself to, like you say, explore that side of yourself and go, do you know what? I don't want to be that passive person anymore, or I don't want to be that aggressive person anymore. I want to be somebody that communicates well, that knows where their boundaries are, that can, close the door, go home, and I've not got things looming over me that I've taken on, or I don't feel overwhelmed, or I don't feel taken the mick out of when I'm in work. And
that
I'm able
is
to.
absolutely a spot on because, and I'm going to go back to the pandemic where a lot of people say admin staff worked from home and you was on a computer, so you instantly available. And it's that mentality, or are you working from home or are you living at work? Because you're constantly thinking of, oh, I haven't done that. Oh, I'll just stay an extra 20 minutes. Oh, I'll just do that. And lo and behold, you're sat there at 7 o'clock at night, still doing what you was someone else's job.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like having boundaries can be done really, really easily. So exactly things like that. A lot of people leave their emails logged in on their phone, or have come across people, which fills me with dread, that have their emails merged. So their work and personal emails are merged together. So it's just constant. It doesn't matter because you can't log out your own email because you need that. So
Yeah,
everything is just coming through. Actually setting yourself really basic things like alarm 45 minutes before I'm due to finish. Now, there's going to be circumstances, particularly in the NHS, where you are going to need to be flexible.
yeah,
Bottom line, sometimes you might work on a ward and something really significant happens half an hour before you are due to leave, and you need to stay half an hour to just help make that situation safe.
yeah.
We're not saying don't be flexible, and we're not saying don't help, but if you know you are consistently dragged into things because you don't say no, past the point, hours past when you finish work, set yourself that alarm 45 minutes before. Right, do you know what? I've heard my alarm go off. I need to start packing things up. Be really clear. I'm letting you know I'm going in 45 minutes. Is there anything you need from me before I go?
Yeah.
Is there anything? Be clear with those things, that there's an ending to what I'm doing here. So
It's
there's only so much I can do. And I'm giving you the option. And if you take it and you ask for that little bit of support off me before I go, brilliant. If you don't choose to do that, I'm going to be gone regardless.
Yeah, well, I think this is it. And when we talk about boundary setting, you're also putting information in other people's minds. I'm letting you know that 30 minutes, 45 minutes, I've got to leave, and that I'll be finished. So what do you need from me now to make this situation easier for you? That one thing a senior staff member said to me one time was the job is always bigger than you. So the job will always be bigger than you. No matter whether you're a clinician or whether you're admin or cleaner, porter, whatever, the job is always going to be bigger than you. So, and taking that with the personal aspect, oh, I need to finish that, I need to do this, that gets you into that situation of saying, oh, yeah, 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 that's fine. Yeah, I'll take it on. But actually saying language again, the language that you use, oh, I'm finishing in 45 minutes. Is there anything you need now? That's a priority. If not, I'll pick the rest up tomorrow.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you set yourself that level there. It might not be you saying no, but you've said it in a way that says, this is all I'm dealing with today. It's a tomorrow's job, that.
Yeah, there's an end to something. And you just give yourself that kind of almost get out of jail free card in a way, that you don't just try and slope out the door at 5 o'clock, hoping nobody catches you asking anything because nothing's really been tied off. You can walk out and go, Clear
I've
end
d-
of that. I can go home. And ultimately, bottom line is, we work to live.
yeah,
That's where some people don't. Some people do live to work, and that is how they like to live, and that's absolutely fine. Each to their own. But the vast majority of people, we go to work so we can do the things that we want to outside of work. We can do the nice
yeah.
things. We can have the nice things. We can enjoy ourselves. So if we're not getting anything from going to work, then
What's
why are we going to work? What's the purpose? If we're not getting any benefits from it, we're
yeah.
not being able to see, do you know what? Actually, I go to work because I want to earn a decent wage, because I want to go and do nice things and go on nice holidays. But when I go on the nice holiday, I sit on my emails the whole time,
That's do you
responding to
know
people.
that is exactly what you were saying there, about merging your emails, having your emails on your phone. So when I work from home, that's in my spare room. When that at 5 o'clock comes, that door shuts, and I'm not going in that spare room. The only time I go in that spare room is to get the ironing board or the maiden or that sort of stuff. I'm not going in, and it's I once went on leave and I forgot to turn my work phone off, and my phone kept ringing and ringing and ringing. And I thought it's kind of reminds you of your mum, ring, 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 and you know something's up. But I was like, you're on leave, so if your phone would have been switched off anyway, so that situation would have got sorted. And I'm slowly, in my mindset, it's kind of like, have you heard the term quiet quitting?
Oh, I
So
like it.
quiet quitting is essentially setting boundaries. You're not quitting your job. You're just doing what is expected of you. You're not going above and beyond in terms of taking everybody's workload on, this sort of stuff. It's a new thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But absolutely, it's kind of like quiet quitting in a sense of, well, I'm just taking a step back from this, and I'm understanding like this is my workload, and this is all I'm saying yes to is this, this, and this because I need to get this complete. And the more older I get, the more organized I become. Planning and like planning this. What about that? What about this? What about that? I can plan anything for everybody, but when it's myself, oh, it's like, oh, I'll do it later. I'll do that. I'll do that. So actually, even in your home life, setting yourself some boundaries. I use the 5 4 3 2 1 method. I know it sounds daft, but I've got to go do the laundry. Right. Okay. 5 4 3 2 1. And on one, I'm up. That's
Yeah.
it. Because once you're up, it's then right, well, I've got to do it now. I'm up.
Yeah.
And as people, like, I don't know if it's just me or whether I'm gonna sound like a weirdo here, but if I've got to do something, I'm like, oh, I'll do it in 10 minutes on the hour. So and then if it's a few minutes past that, oh, I'll wait till quarter past now. And it's kind of like that rounding up. And it's that
Yeah.
self-boundary aspect.
Definitely, it's a fantastic procrastination technique to go, oh, I need to sit on the hour. Oh, I can't. Same with getting up in the morning. Oh, well, it's 3 minutes past 7. I'll get up at 7:15.
Yeah.
Finding some kind of like nice boundary as such for ourselves. And there's a really nice thing that we talk about a lot. And anyone who's either been through CBT or delivered CBT will have heard this numerous times to the point that they probably hate the saying. But
Yeah.
your motivation comes from activation. Can't do anything without you. You're not going to get a bundle of motivation. No one's going to drop it at your door. No one's going to make anything easier. You have to do something to want to do it more. So with self boundaries, sometimes with procrastination, it can be really good to set yourself a really, really small goal.
Yeah.
So if your goal is to do your washing, it might be that actually my goal is to get the washing out of the basket.
Yeah.
Once you start getting the washing out of the basket, the likelihood is you will go and put it in the washer and put it on. But
Yeah.
if it's not, if you're in a position where actually that feels too much and you take the washing out of the basket, you've achieved the goal you set yourself.
Yeah.
Anything above that's a bonus, but you did what you said you were going to do.
Yeah.
And I always use the analogy to people that if I asked you to walk around the block tomorrow or I asked you to climb Kilimanjaro, which would you think about doing? Because
Easy.
Kilimanjaro is huge. It's not an option. I've got to think about my flights. I can't. Got to think about I'm
Yeah.
going to get up the thing. I've got to think about my shoes. There's too much. Walk around the block. Yeah, I can give that a go because it feels remotely reasonable. So
Mhm.
boundaries can come there in terms of if you're needing to kind of get more motivation to do things and you're needing to kind of stop procrastinating and get things done.
Yeah.
Small chunking goal settings really, really helpful to do that. And that can work in work as well. If you've got an absolutely humongous to-do list because you have said yes to things, or it's just your job to do quite a lot of things, chunking down your goals. Okay, well, my goal might be to get this report finished, but actually that's massive and I'm going to avoid it.
Yeah.
So what I am going to do is find a title for my report. I'm going
Yeah.
to read one article that needs to go into my report. Likelihood is when you start, you'll probably get going, but if you don't, doesn't matter because you did what you said you were going to do.
And it's that level of organization and that planning in your mind. And that's what I said the 5 4 3 2 1 method for me is on one. I'm up there, and you've got to do like, because then it's like, right, okay, right, straight to it. And then it's kind of like going to a gym. Nobody wants to go to a gym. Well, some people want to, but majority of people don't want to go to a gym. But once you're at the gym, it's fine. You're like, okay, I'll just crack on with it.
Yeah,
And it's the way you change your mindset. And
100%.
so we're slowly running out of time, but I just want to ask you, if someone who doesn't have the level of confidence that they think they don't have, how would they start to build that confidence into saying no?
Okay, so obviously, like I said before, it sort of depends on your circumstance. If the reason that you've not got confidence is because of something that's been particularly difficult in your life and stuff, then you would be looking at kind of like a therapeutic intervention first. But generally speaking, for anybody that's not particularly had anything traumatic, it's just a kind of lack of being able to say no as such.
Yeah,
Modeling 100%, pick who you want to be like, pick who you want to be similar to, or what parts of people. It might be an amalgamation of people. It might be 3 people that you like, and you make this superhuman that you model yourself on. Modeling is 100% it. Practice, and practice with people you feel comfortable with. So nothing develops. We don't stick to anything if we don't practice it. We need to make it. It's like a muscle. We need to make
yeah,
that assertive muscle strong. So we have to keep practicing it. But if you practice it with the people that terrify you, that ask loads from you, you're not going to do it straight away. It's going to be
yeah,
really uncomfortable. So finding somebody in your family, a friend, somebody that you can sit with and say, right, ask me to do these things, and ask me really seriously, and push against me. Say, oh, well, I could really do with you doing them. I know you've said no, but do you think you could even do half? Or so sitting around people, so you know that when that feeling of anxiety rises up and you feel like you're going to be sick and your heart's beating out your chest and your stomach's knotting, you've got those horrible butterflies that aren't really butterflies, you can sit with that feeling, respond, and know that it's going to go.
yeah.
So then when you get to the point that you're face to face with the person that asks you to do everything that you can't say no to, you've already experienced that feeling 50 times. You know it's going to go out the window in a minute. You just
Absolutely.
have to move through it. So it's practice and modeling for me are the main things. And observe people, watch other people. How do they function? How do they stand? How do they talk? How do they profess themselves in front of people that you go, I could do a bit of that.
Do you know, you say it's funny you say that, because there's an aspect to me, compare myself to people in the office, for example, there's an aspect to me where I can command attention, but that comes naturally because I'm 6'4". I've got such a deep voice. I'm bold. Whereas somebody up to, I'm just thinking of people in the office now, but if I'm, for example, wanting people's attention and there's another person who we all both have to do the same thing, I could see that one person going around and said, hi, I'm such a body, blah, 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 shaking hands. Whereas me, I'd be at the doorway going, hello, I'm here. And it's that level of assertiveness, isn't it? You could be the quietest person in the world, but you can still be that assertive person that you need to become.
Yeah.
Whereas, and the psychological aspect behind it is really, we do it with babies, with kids. Or 2 more bites of that chicken and then you can finish it. And it's kind of like, I'm not asking, I'm telling. Like, so if you
Yeah.
start, sorry, go on.
No. I was saying absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. It
I
is very
think
much so.
it is. I think it's really insightful, because the way you were saying about the modeling aspect, the aspect about thinking of who you want to be, would that person say yes? Would that person say no? It allows you to do that, doesn't it? So
Yeah, absolutely. It gives you that focus. It gives you that thing to go, this is what I'm aiming for. It gives you that goal. It's the same
yeah,
as goal setting in any respect. It's that this is what I'm aiming for. And just not putting yourself in a box. You might be a
yeah,
shy kid growing up. You can still be an assertive adult. It's okay. You
absolutely,
don't have to be boxed into. And equally, you might have been the aggressive one. And you
yeah,
can actually want to tone it down a little bit. And that's absolutely fine. You can still do
yeah.
it. You can make the changes.
Just
You just have
reversing
to.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, Amy, you've been an absolute gem. I could absolutely talk about this all day long because I love the power of assertiveness and what it can do for you. But unfortunately, we are out of time. So thank you very much for attending. You've been amazing. It's given me food for thought, if you would, about how to tone it down on my end at the same time. But
Cool.
also project confidence into other people as whilst we're doing it.
Fantastic.
Brill.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. It's been lovely.
No worries. Thank you very much. If you need any further help or support with your mental health or wellbeing, get in contact with us. The Cheshire and Merseyside Resilience Hub is here to support you, all staff members in the NHS, social care and emergency services with the health, with the wellbeing and with non-clinical stuff as well. No question is a silly question. We can always help when needed. Have a look at our website, And do get in touch with us on Twitter if you need us. But thanks very much for listening. Cheers, everyone.
Resilience is strength. Let us help you find yours.